Vähänummirock 2019 underground event with underground black metal names. What we have today is this interview is Valkyrja from Sweden, out with 4 albums already, but not so steady lineup. Welcome Simon, the only original member, and welcome Vlad, the not so original members. Guys, how is Finland treating you? You're once again here, being a kind of a frequent visitor.
Yeah, when was the last time? I have to think back. A couple of years.
Still fast, I think.
Still fast.
2016, 15.
It's been a long time, yeah.
And you always get drunk.
It's good. We had a good party last night. That's about it. But yeah, it's nice to be back, of course. We have several people we know here, good friends, so it's good to catch up again.
Let's start with the lineup problems, or changes rather. You are an original member, but Vlad has also been quite a long time for band. But
2010, I would guess.
Yeah. But you have had your changes during lineups, and some of them actually affected quite a lot how do you do music and lyrics. Can you enlighten us about this major theme?
For the original lineup was consisting of me and the first vocalist and Andreas. We had a pretty intense collaboration for the first years of the band at least, but it was kind of fading in the ending of his time in the band, and we started to work with a new guy, which was of course a major problem at the time, because involving someone who has to take place as a frontman in something that he has not been breathing since its start is a quite sensitive situation. So we were really working carefully to start to work with this new guy, and we ended up working with him for 2 years. Also started to make the new album together until one day that he, for personal reasons, disappeared. And thus far in the process, it felt like the only way we can work this around is that I actually start to do this myself. It will feel more genuine from the band's perspective, and we would feel a greater control as well. To not start to involve someone new who can leave us. And that's what happened 1 year ago. So now we're for the first time a 4-piece instead of 5 members, which has the lineup was always 5 members before, until this last year.
How much different it is for you to go with this kind of lineup versus the previous ones?
It's been probably the worst battle we had to fight, actually.
Was it a kind of a growing and experience, strengthening
it was growing, but it was not rewarding until I don't know, 8 months after we started that journey. The studio session was a pain in the ass. Rehearsing for the first tour was a pain in the ass. Starting to actually be on stage as a 4-piece was I have to say it was actually working out well from the first show, but it was not perfect at the time. It has been growing since then, and it's not until I would say this year, the tour we did earlier this year, that it was actually feeling complete. As complete as I can say, because there's still progress to be made, but it felt like we can keep the high standard that we felt like we had with the first lineup until 2014, 15. So now we're back on trace again.
Your sound is pretty kind of one could say, typical Swedish sound. I mean, your evil kind of melodies, you're very melodic, but at the same time also very dark, kind of intense. And there are similar bands, which I'm not going to name, people can figure that out, but how do you think these kind of Swedish evil melodic sounds, how does it happen? How does it appear in your music?
The thing is, I've always been maybe even more interested in rock and roll bands than the black metal thing. It was something that came to me in my teenage years, but musically I really like more complex compositions of several elements where they complete each other, where you have the slow part that makes the fast part feels even faster or something. It's the contrast in the music that
you care about your ups and downs.
Yeah, for me that's the key. You can write good parts, but it's the combination. It's like every piece of the puzzle has to fit to make it interesting. That's the mood, and that's what you feel when you hear the melodic part and the maybe more chaotic part or slower doomy part. It's painting a whole picture.
All right. Then I have a question for you, Vlad. You are not originally from Sweden.
No.
So when you came to Sweden and you're obviously already a metalhead, how hard or easy was it for you to just kind of blend in, find these new friends, and then join the band? What is the story like from your perspective?
That's a heavy one.
Obviously.
The first year, actually, when me and my nowadays wife moved to Sweden, was very difficult. We were very alone. We didn't know any people, but it was actually through the metal scene that I got to know the guys behind Valkyrja, and then maybe after 3 months we started playing together. And since then I've been in the band for quite a while. But it was a heavy experience and healthy at the same time. I think everybody should move at least once in their lives to experience like the cultural change and everything. Luckily we're not coming from, I don't know, some other remote part of the world. So we were still, we had some...
You were
in common.
a bit sophisticated still.
But it was a heavy year. But I'm happy we did it. It was probably one of the best decisions of my life.
How much it helped you that you were already metalhead, you listened to the same kind of bands, or did you just have to kind of like, okay, I need to know now these bands in order to kind of get on the same wavelength, so to speak?
There is no easy answer here. Actually, I think it was more of a mixture. Some bands that I like grew up with, that I always imagined were like at least known in Scandinavia, were completely absent. And some other bands that I didn't even have the slightest clue that they existed were becoming very strong names in Scandinavia. So I would say the scene is very, very different, but the people are basically the same. So it helped a lot. I mean, through music I got to know people, and like it helped me. It definitely made the whole journey a bit, much easier.
Before the interview, we had just had some personal talk, this and that, and we're talking about how metal music, for instance, is quite tribal. That all these scenes kind of make each other bond so much more. Do you think it would have been different if you just came with a different background but suddenly found this new kind of music? Would you consider that this is kind of a language even? This kind of a tribe?
It is actually a common language, and you can definitely see it in Sweden, actually, in Stockholm. I saw it with my own eyes. People that are moving to Sweden that have this as a common interest, it's much easier for them to integrate and get like become a part of the scene or the tribe, as you describe it. And of course, the fact that once you start knowing somebody, it leads to knowing to meeting some other people, and it's just like a never-ending loop. And I think it's positive from that perspective.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Swedish scene. I mean, no matter what style we're talking about, be it pop music, be it metal music, all kind of music, Sweden is so strong. And
people say that.
Yeah, and it seems to happen, especially in metal. I mean, it doesn't matter if we talk about death metal or black metal or all kind of stuff, mainstream metal. Sweden is very strong. What do you think is the reason that you are so strong? Whatever you touch, it turns into gold.
I don't know, like, I don't know what... You know, some people are blaming, like, for example, the like winter part of the year that is so dark, and like if you're going to school or work or something, you barely see the sun for a couple of months, you know. So it maybe has a impact on people's like interests. At the same time, people are talking about music schools and stuff, but I don't know, for me it was obvious to play music from when I was a kid, because I got it from the interest from my dad, basically. It was so obvious all the time that I have not really been considering my life without it, and I cannot really tell which is the like surroundings that put me in this context. It was a obvious journey.
So when did you decide to form a black metal band? And why? More importantly.
It's like it goes back to when I was about 14 years old and started to have interest for more and more extreme music.
Mm-hmm.
It was all about that at the time. It's not so much ideology, it's just about like something we wanted our ears raped, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Like the more extreme the better. And it was before the internet boom as well, so we had to buy the records that we could find, and it was maybe a slow progression. We didn't know so many bands, and I grew up in a small shithole with like no connection to bigger groups of people. So I only had like 2 friends that were listening to metal as well. We were exploring this together. Then we started to play together as well. This was not the birth of Valkyrja, but it was the birth of my interest for playing this music. Later on, we met another group of people who had a vision as well to form a band, and we started to do it together then as a 5-piece directly.
Why did you choose the name Valkyrja? It's not exactly a kind of a typical black metal name, even though it's related to Viking myths and all stuff.
It doesn't speak that much for the band today, but it's like you wouldn't change the name of your kid, would you?
No. This must be now Stalin. Okay. What about you, Vlad? Like it said, or we mentioned earlier that you're not originally from Sweden. How was growing up in your ex-home country with metal music, and how did you find your instrument?
I think I discovered metal when I was like 11 or 12 years old. As I told you previously, it was Iron Maiden. When I got completely hooked up, then maybe 3 or 4 years later, I decided that Steve Harris was the hero of my childhood.
Is he still, by the way?
Yeah, he is, definitely. He's one of the few people that I would actually really like to meet in this life. Anyway, this is how I got into it. And then I started playing in a death metal band. And then I also played for a brief period with the thrash metal band in Romania. But we didn't play that much. Maybe we did, I don't know, I did 20 gigs before I moved to Sweden. And then it started to be quite intensive as soon as I started playing with these guys.
Romania is a lot bigger country. We're talking about population,
yeah.
But the scene is not even near of any kind of Nordic countries.
No.
Do you have any insight why is that?
Yes, as opposed to Sweden, for instance, where kids are like influenced or like pushed towards their creative sides. In Romania, it's actually very unusual that people want to learn anything that is not going to lead to a better job or like a better future. So the last thing you want to do is have your
like arts and creative stuff.
It's very weird, but I think it's the same thing that happens basically in Bulgaria, Hungary, and I'm sure you can.
Other Eastern countries.
Yeah, other Eastern countries. I'm sure if you try to compare it to these countries that I already mentioned, you won't find that there is a bigger or a smaller scene. There is no.
Yeah, there is no Bulgarian extreme metal scene as such.
At the same time, I want to say in my defense that I've kind of lost the connection with my home country, so I really don't know what's happening. I'm not the right person to judge it nowadays, but to my ears, I have not heard any band that is like lately that would like attract my attention in any way.
We did play there a couple of months ago.
You did?
We did.
We did. Ah, yeah, we did play in I forgot. Yeah.
Oh god, I was in my home country.
In April, yeah. It was actually an interesting experience. But I mean, it always is to see it through different eyes, but at the same time.
This time you were like looking down. Okay, there's an audience instead of there's some bands.
Yeah. So yeah, it's always fun going back to play there. We've done it actually quite a few times already, and we actually did play in my hometown as well, and that was a bit surrealistic.
Did you see any ex-girlfriends out there? You don't need to answer that. Just kidding.
I actually don't remember.
All right, you mentioned ideology before, and like Valkyrja and stuff like that. Like how the name was taken and all this stuff. How much ideology means to you nowadays? We're talking about black metal where it has a big meaning and impact, but what is in your case?
It's even greater now, of course, since with the last album I was also writing the lyrics. Mm-hmm. So of course my input and idea is greater than before when I was mainly focusing on writing the music. And the thing is, like, I don't like the label thing with saying this is that, and I understand that we belong in the black metal category, but if I can just talk from Valkyrja, what it is about, for me it's the opposition and the interest of, it's rather about asking questions to the unknown than that we are actually delivering answers and preaching to the crowd. It's more of a inside going journey to write those lyrics and combine it with the music. It's more looking inside than to preach to the choir. Yeah.
Is this why you were also labeled, I mean, lyrical themes? I had to check out on Metal Like Hubs how people have defined on the band's behalf.
I'm actually not aware of this, so you have to update me about
one of the curious words was nihilism. Do you consider yourself nihilistic band? Or are the lyrics nihilistic?
Yeah, in a certain way it is, yeah, for sure, but it's not limited to this either. But yeah, it is.
What do you think about bands that are in black metal scene, that is, which are kind of defining that or saying that black metal should be all about being spiritual and religious, and nihilism is actually kind of the counterpart, kind of opposite of all this?
I mean, the irony about this is that we're talking about the religion that is about independence, and how can when you talk about independence in that way, it's a journey that should be for the one person. So that's why, for me, it has always been a bit ironical that you have to group make it a group of people. Like it's still in my eyes, it's the same way as other religions work. It's still like making formations of sheep instead of wolves. You see what I mean? So I find it more interesting to have the eyes open and not talk about specific religions or known ideas, rather like have all the interest open for the unknown.
What does or do concepts of God and Satan mean to you?
I mean, I'm raised in Sweden, a Christian country, so you kind of have this image of good and evil, you know. And I have come to understand later in life what religion has meant to values of like what is considered accepted around for the masses, like what is like commonly accepted and what is the moral, for example. And I've come to understand, of course, that I'm more of the opposer, which you could call a Satanist, but I don't want to label as that because
it's kind of limiting.
Yeah, I find it limiting because it's also, as I said, taking part of a group, taking part of a concept
that is a contradiction in itself. Like, if you are to be independent, you shouldn't be part of any group.
Exactly, that's my point. So talking to people who are like practicing this deeper, I can of course find very good connection to them and certain ideas, but I still cannot buy the whole package.
What do these concepts mean to you then? And how do you see black metal getting more into politics by force or otherwise?
That's a tough question. To begin with the two concepts that you mentioned to Simon, God and spirituality, I don't think they have anything actually connected to each other. I think you can be a spiritual person without actually believing in God. You don't have to. It's again, we do labels of everything. When it comes to black metal and politics, it's just starting to spiral out of control, I think.
It's escalating day by day.
During the later years, and unfortunately I felt the full blow of that myself.
Yes, that's a thing we need to address a little bit outside of Valkyrja thing.
Yeah.
You're also a promoter of Stockholm Slaughter.
I used to be.
Yeah, well, used to be one of the guys.
It's me and my friend Roman.
And then some shit happened with the kind of unexpected political corner attacking you with threats and all that stuff, and that caused a whole lot of money and that caused a whole lot of problems.
Yeah.
But there were no show for anything inappropriate for politics. Can you enlighten the audience about what was going on?
There is actually, I cannot say this in like 2 minutes, so I don't want to waste our time too long, but long story short, I got to know 3 weeks before the festival that we had to remove 2 bands because we were accused of having right-wing connections. And,
2 of the major bands on the bill.
2 of the major bands, yes. And the problem was that I've known, the irony of the thing was that I've known these guys personally since many years back. We've toured together. So yeah, knowing them personally, it made it more surreal because I knew they didn't have any. I mean, if of course I'm not going to go into personal details now. But for instance, the main band that was accused was Marduk. If people would like know their like personal background, this would be like completely erased because it doesn't make any sense. So yeah, it was just a heavy ride, but I'm happy we ended up. I mean, we kept our words, our word towards the people that purchased the tickets. So I think in the end everybody was happy, and we also did a statement that
that's an important statement these days.
We shouldn't allow ourselves like social justice warriors hiding behind the keyboard to make the rules, because it's just not the way it's supposed to be. I mean,
these kind of witch hunts have become more and more often, but often also without any kind of evidence or proof. I mean, everybody can just throw those accusations like these are Nazis or these are child molesters and whatever crazy, and often there is no proof. So do you think this can actually work for the benefit of being a black metal, like let's make black metal dangerous again, or is it just destroying the art?
In my opinion, if now I'm speaking general, as I was talking earlier, when I first got into this music and when I got a deeper connection to it as well, it was because it was giving me another side of life that I could not get in my regular life. Like it was, I'm not gonna call it a escape, but you understand what I mean. Like it was something that was more open and free from the values that we are taught to respect in this world. So with that said, of course it can be provoking in many ways, but that's by its nature. That's how it's born, and it's also artistic value of like naming certain topics and stuff as well, or themes in the lyrics. But what I find annoying then is that it's something that has been, in my opinion at least, free from political value, but these people are forcing band members to take action and take a side in questions that they should not even be asked to start with, because it's bigger than the worldly limits. It's bigger than politics. It's something from man to man to get along and make a like society together. Black metal is something bigger than this. It should not be taken down to earth and be respected as a like a thing, a worldly thing like this. It's something else, and it should remain open, in my opinion.
All right. Before we finish off, just a couple of last questions. How do you think your life during adulthood, being a metalhead, playing in the bands and stuff, how much has it changed your life or thoughts for like past 10, 15 years?
Completely. I would have been a total different person, and it took me the whole metal thing took me on a fantastic journey, and it's not over yet. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to imagine myself not being it's either the way I am today, or I would be like completely different. And I'm happy I'm the way I am today.
All right. What about you? Do you have any regrets or hopes?
No, not at all. I think this.
No hopes either.
No, I mean this journey has been taking us to places and contexts that we would not face otherwise. So I'm grateful for that. It's as I said earlier, like it's a inside journey at the same time as we're doing something public. It's taking us to places, it's taking us to situations, and we get, in my opinion, like
invaluable experience,
exactly.
Life experience that you would otherwise not get. I mean, sometimes you can end up in like a godforsaken city in the middle of nowhere, and you think like, would I have traveled here if I would have been a regular guy? Most likely not. Yeah. Like, I mean, why would you? We played in places I didn't even knew.
You didn't know even existing on the map.
Yeah. But like, okay, we're here. That's interesting.
All right.
For instance, Pori.
Pori. Oh yeah.
Björn Pori.
Now we're here.
Björn Pori. Since you have this insight, the skill of insight, and you've been on this journey for quite a long time, how would next 10 or 15 years look in your eyes through Valkyrja lenses?
I mean, I'm looking forward to see where the road will take us, and I think due to, as we started with the lineup changes, now we're back to work on something that we can we have something concrete again, that is a unit, and now we can make this interesting journey again. We're not just repairing something anymore. We're making progress, and we're evolving.
All right. Final words. Which would be your advice to somebody who is there, 15 years of age, getting his or her first guitar, and I want to play in a band?
Don't do it.
What about you?
I've been answering the question the same way as Vlad before, actually. Don't do it.
It's too much of a hassle, but once you get there, it's like...
You'll make friends.
You want to make it the Romanian way, like do something that will lead to a work instead, like
so
or earn some proper money.
Travel to different country, don't buy the guitar, and you will miss a lot of bands. You will miss a lot of friends, a lot of booze.
There's too many bands today. We all know it.
Yeah,
I mean we're of course a part of the
more than 130,000 bands listed on Metal Archives. I'm gonna.
Yeah.
So that's good excuse to say thank you guys. It was nice to have you here.
Nice meeting you again, Jerry.
All the best to you guys, and you there. Well, figure out before you buy your first Jackson or whatever. And what can I say? See you on the other side. Kiitoksia. Thank you. Tack så mycket.
Tack.